I can't count the number of people, institutions that have started conversations about what needs to be done to our constitution. Professor Aaron Michael Quay, who is currently a fellow of the IEA, has an entire series of lectures that he is organizing on this specific topic. In fact, Professor Abuchi has spoken at one of those lectures. This is an issue that has engaged our talking faculties a lot. Not so much our action faculties. I wonder what your thoughts are on why every process to amend the Constitution has stalled.
Wow, why? Maybe I need a scientific study, but we can do the norms of plausibility. Having lived in this environment, you can hazard a guess, right? Short of a scientific. Obviously, power sweet. You see, an absolute power corrupts. So the number one thing is that the executive presidents that we've had, except Atta Mills, and may his soul rest in peace, you see that they all enjoy the trappings of power, so they were not interested. But I see Mills, the man that he was, when he came, say, no, not under my watch. Come on, let's get on with it. So you see the big volume we did. Proposed about 211 amendments and all that, right? Yes, and you see how it caught on. We voted through text messages and all that, right? Yes, so it's the persons. That's why I always single out Mills. Apart from Mills, the rest of our presidents, they've come personal aggrandizement, like what the current president is doing, making money for his family. He and Oforiata, making money. They've made hundreds of millions of this Ghana cedis through data bank, buying and then doing the bonds for us, right? So that's the main thing. So he's enjoying power. So he's not interested in anything that will reduce his power. You remember the district, the proposal to elect the MMDCs on non-partisan lines. Once the mood of the country shifted to non-partisan, and the president saw that he had lost, he took it personally and cancelled it. I mean, so it's about the personality.
But
We've
does he
had
not
poor
deserve credit
leadership.
for at least attempting to do something, whether partisan or not, attempting to somehow decentralize some of his power?
Well, you're talking about decentralization. Right now, would you say decentralization? That's a whole new topic altogether. Look, you see the statutory capping. There's an act where, when he came, they did the statutory capping act, and it's created a lot of rigidities in the system because through the the funds that some of the agencies could keep and the rest, they were beginning to become more independent and the rest. But when the president came, there's an act called statutory capping where they cap the money that goes to these agencies. So you've constrained them. So when you talk about decentralization, it's not altogether clear to me that he's decentralized that much power because money.
Well, I mean, it was an attempt. I mean, that the whole idea of allowing us to vote for MMDC.
Oh, okay. Oh, in this case, the answer I'll give you is that the only promises that count are the ones that get delivered. The only promise that count are the ones that are delivered. So simple question, could you? Today, are we electing the MMDCs? No. So that's it. So his attempt wasn't good enough. And it looked very disturbing that because his wish was rejected by the people, then he canceled the elections. I was like, what? So it means that the president sees the position as just his personal aggrandizement. It's what he likes. Unfortunately, that's not what the Constitution is about.
Martin, so Professor Kofi Abuchi was a bit categorical. He says, yes, we could amend, certain provisions in the Constitution, but for those who are saying we need a totally new document, I mean, from the one that we currently have, he says he doesn't think that can be done. Do we need a new Constitution?
Listen, it's all about the words. It's about the words too. I think in simple language, when you say new Constitution, it resonates with some of our people, right? But in practice, it's going to be a fusion of this current one and some amendments. So it's words that we are playing on. But what is very clear on all sides is that this Constitution needs a lot of heavy, substantial amendments. That's the bottom line. Starting with the executive power, the legislature, everywhere. So if you take like the fundamental human rights, yes, most of them are going to stay. We will be putting in more clauses to make things clearer. So that area will stay. When you go to Parliament, Article 174 that he cited almost, yes, the power of Parliament to make law, taxation, all those, they will stay. But we will seek to add clauses that will strengthen Parliament. So it's about the play of words. And also the part that he said that if you take out the whole of this constitution, it amounts to an abrogation as stated in Article 3. That one, respectfully, I disagree with the Venerable Professor Abuchi. No, I don't think so. If we find that portions of the Constitution, parts of it are inimical to our development, we throw them out. But so far, we've amended. So the abrogation they are talking about there, for me, what I see is when it's illegal, coup d'etat, yes, those are the type of things that when you attempt to use force to change the Constitution, then that's the one that Article 3 is prescribing. But where, as a people, we agree, we go to a referendum. Sovereignty, you know, Article 1 starts. Sovereignty resides in the people, right? So we are a sovereign state. We, the people, if we think this document is no longer working for our good, and we put in the process of amendment, then we go to a referendum and vote. Anything we change, it's not illegal. And even there are some parts that don't need a referendum. Remember Act 527, the one we changed about citizenship to make dual citizenship, then vice president, when J.J. Rawlings wasn't happy about Aka, and then he removed him from chairman of the police council. We made all those amendments because the president was unhappy with Aka. So now would we say abrogation? No. So what is legal? If we use legal means to amend the Constitution, that's not what Article 3 is prescribing. So the word abrogate there and amend there is the same. Abrogate is not.
You've talked about the executive, for instance. I mean, he agrees, okay, so this whole thing about ministers and MPs, yes, we have to look at it. But he says he doesn't think that the president has excessive powers. Parliament is very powerful, and so if Parliament were working, we would not have a problem.
Excellent. So, yes, you see, what he's saying, like you say, book law, he's right on paper that what he sees there is not excessive. Because, and he rightly said it, that the framers assumed that we're going to have very honest men of integrity, right? Yes, we're going to have very honest people, very, honorable, and so they will do what is good for the country. Unfortunately, but when you go into political class lectures, there's this famous, they will tell you that human beings are not angels. So where you draw up a constitution with the assumption that human beings will be angels, then it's flawed, right? So as he's rightly said, because of that assumption that we've seen that we are not angels, it means we have to rewrite it in such a way that it will reflect that we are very bad people. Yes, so write with the eye that these are people who would outwit the rules. Politicians like breaking rules. So write with such a mentality. And also, let's quickly make this point. I thought that it's generally been accepted that this constitution was a compromise, actually, to be able to get J.J. Rawlings to buy into it. I think that view has gone very far. And Professor Kwame Ahoy and the rest who were at this in the middle of this, maybe he can come out. I don't know if he touched on that in his book. We'll check subsequently.
Yeah.
But it's gone very far that this constitution was a compromise for J.J. Rawlings. So if Rawlings is no longer at the helm of affairs, obviously means that the day he left, then that was the day we should have started amending it. And that's why Mills did what he did. Constitutional review. We spent about $7 million, right? Yes. And then, what do you call it? They set up a committee, how to implement, and then eventually John Mahama was booted out. President Kufuor came. He promised that we'll have the election of the MMDCs. He lost his wish, then he cancelled it. So it's all about leadership. We've had very poor leadership. That's our problem.
So you say we must, do away with the bad clauses because we are bad people. So we should actually ensure that in writing any constitution, amending the constitution, we actually prevent people from taking advantage. What are some of the provisions that we're taking advantage of as bad people that you'd want amended?
The first one is Article 78. That's the one that says that the president should appoint a majority of his ministers from Parliament. Maybe we should read it. Since we've been talking, sometimes people like to hear the direct way. So let's read 78:1. It says, ministers of state shall be appointed by the president with the prior approval of Parliament from among members of Parliament or persons qualified to be elected as members of Parliament, except that the majority of ministers of state shall be appointed from among members of Parliament. You see it? The majority. So how this thing has worked out is that because we are bad people, right? Every MP of the ruling government wants to be appointed a minister. I hear nowadays it's becoming very clear that they don't like deputy ministerial appointment because a deputy minister doesn't have much of a voice. It doesn't get much, right? So even some of the state-owned enterprises like NPA, Cocoa Board and the rest, when you are MD there, you are far better off than the deputy minister. People are now realizing it, right? So everybody wants to be a minister because that is where, when you award contracts, you will get 10% or more, and that's the disturbing thing. 10% we knew was always there.
Allegedly.
Master, look, I'm saying it on
Allegedly.
authority. Right now, we will move away from this allegedly. I've said so. People would think that we will prove it. Come on, let's be very brutal.
Mr. Kpebu, we also reserve the right to not be included.
Very good. So I am saying that, look,
in any
that is
potential
where ministers
lawsuits.
sign contracts and take 10%, and there's been evidence over time from even Kwame Nkrumah's time, right? Haruna Iseku said the same thing against President Kufuor.
Allegedly.
And all that. Haruna Iseku said it. He said what he said. Joe FM, you carried it those years.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, he alleged it, and we said he has alleged it.
Yeah, so listen. So the main
allegedly.
thing is that, so in practice, what is come is that everybody is going to look for money. You see, it becomes a very complex problem. Sometimes the politicians also tell you that we, the citizens, are the ones making them corrupt because they wake up and there are lines of people, queues in front of their houses waiting to collect money to pay school fees, to pay medical bills and the rest. So once you get elected, there are so many demands. So perhaps, you should also have some series, right, that will do maybe reconscientize the Ghanaian. And just by the way, has it struck you guys that not many of us even understand the meaning of Ghana? Yeah, I became a full adult in uni. And after a time, I even forgot. It was today I looked up again for it because I said, let me be very careful. I only remember one word, there's a warrior. But I knew that there were more words. You ask a lot of us, do we understand what Ghana means? Right? So the point I'm making is that, so even as a people, we don't seem to know who we are. And so our values are warped. It's all about get rich quick or die trying. That's the real Ghanaian value. And it's been there for a long time. Look, when I was a kid, I remember watching, the time it was only GTV. I remember the older ones saying that the youth were only trying to get rich quick. And those people they are referring to are now the people in government, majority, because they were the young men at the time. So it's always been there that, look, our real value is actually being get rich quick or die trying, right? Yeah, so where everything is about money, 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 what's happening is that in practice, the point we're developing is that the members of parliament go to parliament in the hope of being appointed ministers because that's where they will make money. MP salary is not much money. So this is the one we want to amend so that an MP cannot be a minister. And then number two, a very huge part, an MP cannot be a board member of the state-owned enterprises and institutions. Kojo, that's a huge one that people often will gloss over. But some of the MPs, if they make you board chairman of, let's say, let's come again, this National Petroleum Authority, so many of the big institutions, or even board member, let's even step back, just board member alone, they've become lobbyists for these institutions, and that's how they make money. So there's a lot of insider dealing and all that. So Article 78, Clause 1 is the first to go. A minister, an MP shall not be a minister of state. An MP shall not be a member of a board of any state-owned institution. No, so that they can become more independent. Yes, Professor Abochi has warned us that there could still be collusion. The party could still take money and go and give these individuals privately, right? But let's look at it. At least the fact that right now is very easy because they just want to cross into ministerial positions and so the rest, they can get the money by themselves, right? It's easy for them to become very docile and very malleable in the hands of the president. Yes. Docility and malleability. These are the two words that Article 78, Clause 1 has created in the MPs. They become docile, they become malleable. Check, Professor Achuayi has written extensively on that, right? And so That is our number one problem. So until recently, you see what the heroes 95 did. Yeah, the MPs, Honorable Patrick Buama and the Apia Kubi, Eugene Boachienchi. You see, out of the blue, when was the last time we saw that MPs could stand up to the president? And afterwards, you see the machinations and the rest, and some are saying they've caved in because they've been threatened that they will be voted out at the primaries and all that, right? So Article 71, there, we have to deal with it and deal with it well.
As in 78.
Oh, sorry, 78. Article 78.
Oh, you have another problem with Article 71.
Yeah, okay, yes. So 71 to, yes, that's the ex gratia matter. Yes, 71 on paper doesn't seem to be the problem as such. So when we go to 71, viewers, I'm sure every Ghanaian, we should be buying the constitution, right? Everybody, so that when we make reference, you too can make reference at home. When you look at 71, I don't think time will permit us to read, so I just want to make it. When you read 71, no specific figures have been written there. No specific figures that ex gratia amount every 4 years, get 400 and something thousand for an MP. The president should get X amount. No figures. It talks about a committee set up to go into the matter and to determine. My problem is that the committee also lacks independence. How does the president appoint the committee? He will appoint his friends, favorites. President will not appoint independent-minded people, and that's why it's happened all along. Except perhaps this committee, Green Street. When you read the Green Street report, that one they cut down. Can you imagine how ridiculous the current one, the Professor Intiamwa Bedu report? I don't know the ones who went and even added first ladies and all that, second ladies.
Yes.
So it tells you that, look, they lacked independence. It's as if it appears to me, and I'm entitled to my view, that it's like, hey, the president has done me an honor by making me a member of the committee. So you are just trying to fall over, all over, trying to do something to please him. You see how they took it to a ridiculous extent. And even it's not as if people hadn't warned them. When you read, there's this page that famously, the overlord of the Dagbon traditional area, the Yana Abukari, where he warned them that, hey, you know, the Yanti Amwabedu committee, when they were going around, they were consulting all over the country. So they got to the Yana, and he warned them that as you are doing this work, please remember the teachers and the nurses, without whom our education and hospitals will be doomed. Remember the teachers and the nurses, without whom our education and our hospitals will be doomed. So it was about the disparity. When such a big king admonishes you to be careful, and they themselves, the committee, Intiamwa Bedu committee, you see that they repeated in various parts that people are not happy. People are not happy. Yet when they ended up doing a very ridiculous thing, increased the figures, and even extended it to the first lady and second lady. But for the noise that we made, you see, it would have gone through. It actually went through, but when we made noise, then the first lady with very high emotional intelligence, she returned the money, and then also the second lady followed suit, right? So what we are saying is that committee is not independent enough. So when we amend 71, we will be clearer. We would preferably like the committee to be populated with people from opposition, experts, but very independent, and we want to vote on it. So one key thing we'll be doing is that if you look at, go back to ancient Greece, direct democracy, where democracy came from, direct democracy, then it later became representative. So the direct democracy, you know, they used to meet in the assembly to vote. So some of these things, we would ask that when the committee is to be set up, we can do voting online, text messages and the rest. Then some, names will be suggested. They'll be publicly interviewed. Then citizens will vote. So the new constitution, we're going to ask for citizens participating from time to time. Often I cringe when I hear that people say, oh, you give the president a 4-year mandate. You give the president a 4-year mandate, and so in between, he has a right to rule. That's wrong. That's not what our constitution says. The constitution says you have a 4-year mandate subject to good behavior. You have a 4-year mandate subject to good behavior. When you are not behaving well, you'll be impeached. We all know that, yes, we'll go back to parliament. Impeachment is difficult. The numbers are too high. So actually, impeachment is another thing we'll be looking at. Instead of these two tests, we will bring it down. Maybe just a little above majority. Yes, instead of, like if we are...
Will that not create unnecessary instability?
It's not instability. It will make the president sit up. Like the current situation we have. Can you imagine 137, the whole of the majority caucus come to the president and tell him that please sack Oforiatta for despicable conflict of interest, reckless borrowing, mismanagement of the economy, etc. And the president is refused. He summoned them and rather had his way. Can you imagine? 137.
But since he was able to do that even when almost the entirety of parliament wanted him to remove Ken Oforiatta, then changing the margin by which he can be impeached, I mean, would that make a difference?
It
He
will.
was able to overturn the wishes of all of them.
Yes, because he controls the purse. So parliament controlling the purse, like Professor Buchi said, that's just on paper. Practically, it's the president who controls the purse, because as people, the human beings that we are in Ghana, most of our real value is get rich quick or die trying. So you have the parliamentarians watching. He doesn't want to lose his seat, because when he walks all over, he's called honorable, honorable. So he fights a bit and then runs away. Maybe it's like the way they say, he who fights and runs lives to fight another day, right? And then you look at the ministers. You see the time Patrick Boama and the Apia Kubi and Eugene Boachi and Ko came out. You see, they are independent a bit because they are not ministers. Did you see any of the ministers come to talk? Because the president will sack him. You said, no, he's undermining the president. So you see it. Hey, and as a minister, he signs contracts, he's making a lot of money. You want him to come and sacrifice? It's because we have not, when we're small, there used to be that saying, a good name is better than riches. It's lost now. You don't even hear it. A good name is better than riches. That's how we were raised. It's gone. It's gone. It's gone.
Riches are better than everything.
Excellent. So our values have been thrown to the dogs. Now it's get rich quick or die trying. So you see that the ministers don't want to get near that thing. That's how come initially they were, they say 88, he went to 98, 95, then later Osechi Mensah, so he did well, came and said the whole of the majority. But soon, the numbers dwindled again, because right now as we talk on record, they say they are 95, right? And so by my estimation, the ministers are out. No, but they don't want to lose their position. You see, so that is the problem. So once we know that we are not angels and trying to preach and preach, we may not change that much. Let's write the rules in such a way that even if you are a bad person, the rules will catch you. So if we reduce the threshold for impeachment, you see, move it from 2/3, then maybe we say majority, we just say 10 extra MPs above majority, right? Yeah, so you see currently we have 137, 137, then Isiama works with the, what do you call it, the ruling government, so they got a majority, right? Just one person. In future, we may get it again. So if we had such numbers and we knew that we just need 10 people from the ruling government to impeach the president, the conversation would have been different, because I'm sure then Ghanaians would have massed out in the streets saying that these 10 should come out from the majority and support the minority to get the president out. Because, you know, Akufo-Addo has done us a lot of harm. It's driven us into a deep crater. The time they were borrowing, they were told, hey, stop. But the plain truth is that because they were making money from the money we're borrowing, he has such a big incentive. He wants to make his family rich, so he would have none of it. He kept borrowing, because Data Bank would help in selling the bonds, help in, you know, putting up the prospectus and the rest, and make a percentage. And the Data Bank is significantly owned by Oforiatta and his friends. And Oforiatta is the president's brother. Please, I say brother, I don't like the word cousin. I don't like the word cousin. In Chi, there's no word for cousin. In Chi, or Unia. So he's going to the family. So stop. When I hear people just say on air, cousin, I'm like, no. Speak Ghanaian English. We have our own English. I don't pretend to speak the British English. I don't speak the Queen's language. I'm speaking Ghanaian English. That is the president's brother.
To be fair,
so they have become rich as a family.
Using the word cousin does not reduce the accusation of nepotism anyway.
It does. It creates some semblance of independence.
I don't know about that.
I believe so. But when you say it's brother, then it's closer. Brother is closer than cousin. We have
people have been forced to resign because they stayed in their friend's hotel when they traveled as government officials. So I don't think cousin makes it any better than brother. That's my view anyway. But
Brother makes it better than cousin.
I don't think either of them is. I don't think there's a difference.
Well,
I mean,
well, the majority, I think that you see, when you're analyzing, sometimes cousins, because you know it happens that a lot of us, we have cousins that we've never even met. We have cousins that we hardly meet. We don't even talk to them. Maybe you see the person on TV and say, oh, this is my cousin. But you haven't met him in 20 years. I have cousins. Sometimes you see your cousin on TV, you're like, oh yeah, 20 years, 30 years, you've not even met. The last time you saw your cousin, you're probably like 10 years. But every now and then you hear him somewhere on radio or this. We haven't met. So you see, and I'm sure a lot of Ghanaians can relate to that. And also the way we treat our cousins, it's not like when you say brother, even in families and all that. So the word we should start using is brother. When you say brother, then people will sit up. Yes, that's how I used to. Well, cousin wasn't ringing until one day. I just remember that by in tree, there's no word for cousin. It's brother. I said, oh. So you see that when you are saying the president is appointed his cousin, and Oforiatta is making money for through data bank from all the money we borrow, it's his cousin. He seems a bit independent. But when you say it's brother, then it really hits you that, oh, so the money is going to the president's family. You see, could you say, don't you have cousins that you hardly meet?
yeah, I have cousins I don't know.
Uh-huh.
Well, I'll tell you, if anybody has made us sit on our toes this morning, it's Martin Kpebu. We appreciate your insights. And in fact, this conversation about what to do about the Constitution, it's perhaps the most important conversation of our time.
Yeah.
I sincerely hope that it moves from conversation to actual action, actual project, actual resolution that we make as a nation, that we want the best possible Constitution to live by. And if we all want the best possible, then we must all agree that everything can be improved. And so this Constitution must be improved. Thank you so much for your time with us.